This session is covering community voices, research to action. We will be beginning today's session with Robin Lesko. Robin is a senior organizer for Food and Water Watch and manages the Municipal Ordinance Project. She is a lifelong resident of Southwestern Pennsylvania and has worked and lived in frontline communities affected by the fracking industry. Robin has a master's in counseling from Chatham University, specializing in environmental psychology. Please welcome Robin now.
Right on. Thank you so much for having me. Real quick, just want to explain Food and Water Watch is a 501c3 organization. We mobilize regular people to build political power to move bold and uncompromised solutions to most pressing food, water, and climate problems of our time. And to make it hyper local, I am part of a project in Southwestern Pennsylvania, particularly Allegheny County, called the Municipal Ordinance Project, or MOP for short. A little bit of a backgrounder with Pennsylvania for anybody who lives outside Pennsylvania or might not be familiar with Pennsylvania law. In 2009, Pennsylvania Supreme Court made it clear that our local governments have the exclusive power to decide where, by way of zoning powers, where fracking and related operations may occur with their respective communities. Not much has changed because with the pro-drilling politicians in power in Harrisburg, it's up to our local governments to appropriately protect communities from the harms of land uses associated with fracking and to empower our local communities to enforce these local regulations for further protection. So we did a quick survey back in 2016 of 130 municipalities in Allegheny County. You heard that correctly. We have 130 communities in one county. It's a bit much. And we saw that a lot aren't protected from fracking via zoning. And that is exactly how we work and how we win. And this does tie into one of our biggest successes of the year that could not be done without the community at large. We identify municipalities that don't have the local ordinances to properly address oil and gas usage. We engage the local government and our citizens to have them enact appropriate ordinances that are protective for the whole community. Notice that we said protective, not restrictive. We don't want to interfere with the PA Oil and Gas Act. So in doing this, we limit the scope of the adverse health and safety impacts presented by shale gas development. And we organize local citizens to become effective advocates for the enactment of these ordinances because it matters what they want their community to look like, not what industry wants it to look like or what an outside organization wants it to look like. And then finally, we all work together. Any strategy or tactical support or usage that we can do to help allied organizations, we're there for you. So moving right along, since we're talking about research, policy, and organizing, very dear to my heart, my first love is research and epidemiology. So science and research absolutely play a major role in how MOP works and wins for our communities. When the latest health research comes out about how dangerous fracking can be to human health and what distances have been shown to be dangerous or less dangerous, we include this data to better inform local elected officials, as well as our community members on what they should look for and include in their ordinances. And it's an invaluable tool when it comes to outreach, as when people don't know where to start, there's a comfort in science and research that they all provide because it provides those facts and figures. It provides the tangible evidence to say, I know something's happening in my community. How can I fix it? Where can I go from there? Alrighty, so to mark that, Food and Water Watch is primarily an organizing organization, but we have our own research department. But this research department is to help translate technical research from all over the world into everyday language in order to inform people everyday people on our issues and encourage them to take action. We fully believe that rigorous academic research that is free of corporate biases should be the driving force for policy change so that our laws and regulations are not only fully informed, but also address the actual impact on everyday people. So in the spirit of growing, I know we have a lot of gardeners on this call, and as it is Native American Heritage Month that we should not be celebrating in 1 month, but every day of the year in honor and respect. I thought maybe we could have a little visual here on how research, policy, and organizing play together. And I would like to honor that by maybe making a comparison to the three sisters of companion planting. Just a quick backgrounder, anybody who wants to try this out, it's excellent. You start with your corn, your beans, and your squash, and they all work together in a symbiotic relationship to provide nutritious food and sustenance for everyone around. So who starts up first is your corn. That is the backbone there. It's tall, it's strong, used for so much. And I'd be biased, but I feel like that is research. This is where we don't base our truths. This is where the truth is found. And even though it doesn't always work this way, I feel that policy should be influenced by research or should follow research. And that's what comes next is our bean plant, who circles up around research and is supported, but still provides the nutrients as well. Who's down at the bottom is our friend squash. I mean, we are in harvest season here. So we have our pumpkins, we have everything, and that is organizing. Not only are we continuing to provide nutrients to the soil and the strength for the other two crops to grow, but if you've ever taken a little walk through a squash patch and you notice the stems of there have little spikes on them, it's a little prickly, and organizing and organizers and activists can be a little bit prickly when we're defending the things that we love and the truths, so that policy is run by research and what is best for the community and not industry or political power. So thank you for indulging me on that. All right, what we've been waiting for. I would love to talk about a victory that happened just this summer, which absolutely I think is one of the biggest that has happened in the Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania, maybe even the country. In July of 2022, after whirlwind of meetings and organizing across the land, we helped pass the bill that we affectionately called the Parks Bill. This bill, which is actually an ordinance, which is why I gave so much background there on zoning. This ordinance and bill prohibits drilling on the surface and subsurface of 8 of our 9 county parks. And this is a common sense law that will ensure that county parks that encompass 12,000 acres across 12 distinct watersheds will be protected for generations to come. This was a hard-fought, hard-won battle that would not be done, that could not happen without cooperation from everybody from all walks of life. Because as this became the first countywide legislation of its kind in Pennsylvania. So factors that contributed to this historic victory, since we're talking about research, absolutely research has played a huge part in this Parks Bill success, because when we know better, we do better. Over the last decade, a voluminous amount of peer-reviewed studies have concluded that shale gas development in close proximity to vulnerable populations has inherent risks and dangers to our health and safety. Many of these risks can be exacerbated by the very nature of public parks, as communal gathering places for population of all ages and vulnerabilities are here. We were talking about COVID-19 during this conference and how COVID-19 is shale gas is exacerbating the symptoms of COVID-19. Where were we recommended to go during all these times for place of solace and exercise and health? The parks. Why should that place that was recommended for our health be under the threat of something that we now know and we, without a shadow of a doubt, harms our health? So we knew we had to act, and we had to all act together. Alrighty. So the history of powerful grassroots activism, we would not be here without the grassroots group Protect Our Parks. They started as early as 2013 to fight back. They fought for a moratorium on fracking when they saw what was happening to surrounding counties and all the research coming out. Then in our current county executive, Rich Fitzgerald, did veto that, but don't worry, we got him back this year, as this was the first veto override that ever happened under his reign. It was the first one in 18 years, so it's okay. In 2016, the county did lease Deer Lakes Park for part of the fracking operations by Range Resources. And it was a little bit heartbreaking when in 2019, we found out through a water quality assessment that there was a contamination associated with the chemicals leased from fracking. But you know what? After that lease, the dream of fracking didn't die. We all organized. We started a coalition of supporters, old and new. We connected with all sorts of state groups together. And I won't name them all just out of the spirit of not forgetting anyone. This legislation was out of the phrase, why not? Everybody was so afraid that since the county executive had struck it down once, he'd strike it down again. And we said, why not? Why can't we try again? More and more research has come out. This is the time that we can act. We said this would not be possible without all of the groups that came together. This is our moment. This isn't one group's moment. This is all of ours in the show of collective power that we hold together. The strengths that we developed in this Protect Our Parks coalition have continued to work on, and we showed that we can't wait for things to trickle down, that we must work upstream to do this. Which leads to my next point. I don't know if she's still here, but when we developed this bill, we asked Bethany Hallam, one of our climate champions, if she would sponsor this bill, and she said it would be her pleasure. And we could not be more grateful for her drive and initiative and passion as she got our 4 co-sponsors, Liv Bennett, Michelle Nakarati-Chakas, Jack Betkowski, and our beloved Anita Prizio. Sorry, I'm biased. I love her. They worked together with community groups to mobilize this. They were able to put together an inside-outside strategy to educate and pressure other council members, while at the same time building that grassroots support in the community. So that shows that where research and organizing influences policy. As one of the council members who voted, they said, we are not a rubber stamp council. We are here to support the community, not industry. And it just shows the power of the people to hold their elected officials accountable. And at least 3 council members did not personally support this bill, but they voted for it because of the flood of comments and pressure from the people that said, you can no longer ignore the facts. You can no longer ignore that this is not the right space at all to have in our parks. Lastly, so what can researchers do? Keep doing conferences like this. If researchers continue to come to the table more and more often like this to give real world summaries of the peer-reviewed studies and research that exists, it would go a long way in the educational portion of organizing and lead to the strengthening of our policies to protect what we love most, our children and our families, because isn't that what matters the most? Thank you so much.